The question of what voice a songwriter uses to articulate the music inside is a very interesting one, and everybody does it a little differently. And everybody does it a little differently, I think, in many cases, depending on the song they're working on. Now, in my case, I have collaborated for almost all of my career. I think I've only, since my early years doing this, I think I've only written a few songs by myself. And I love collaboration. I love the marriage of it. I love the gift of somebody bringing me a great idea, a great line, a great song in progress. I love being able to trust somebody, bounce it off them, knowing that they trust me. I love the collision and the clash of it at times. I mean, it's not fun when you disagree, seriously, but when you disagree, it can be great. That can be what sets you off in the right place. But as to the question of what voice I'm writing in when I'm writing, or how I'm expressing it musically, since I'm not a great singer, I won't be particularly inspired by my singing. On the other hand, I'm a good phraser, for example. I've learned how to be a good phraser. I'm not embarrassed to sing in front of a collaborator, in front of anybody else. I mean, I've asked, if not instructed, some of the greatest singers in the world how to sing a song of mine, so I'm not uncomfortable doing it. The question of whether I write by singing, yes. Whether I write by using my hands, yes. But there's a very interesting comment that Burt Bacharach, who I consider a genius, made in a great interview in a book called Songwriters on Songwriting. He said that when you're writing music, you have to learn at some point to get away from your hands, to abandon your hands. And even before I read that, I was aware of it, but once I read him saying it, it became kind of a mantra. And what he's really getting at is that you need to get to the point where you're not playing, where you're not hearing what you play. What he really meant by that was you need to get away from hearing what you play to playing what you hear. And all of us, if we write using an instrument, and I frequently use keyboards, for example, but the same would be said for guitar players or anybody else, we fall into patterns. Our hands go certain places. Our hands play certain rhythms. Our hands are comfortable in certain places. But creativity is all about making yourself uncomfortable on the way to making yourself comfortable. Finding the place that's a little bit different and exploring it to the point where it feels right to you, which could be said to be your comfort level. And I think that what Bacharach was talking about is, I mean, he's a great, great piano player, for example. If he can get away from using his hands, then the rest of us have to do that. And, you know, this informs a lot of different kinds of writing, particularly as technology develops. I remember when synthesizers first became prevalent, that a lot of noted songwriters would say, oh, well, you shouldn't write using a synthesizer because, you know, you're kind of cheating. You should write using a piano so you, and then hear everything else like a great arranger should. Well, that, in my mind, that is the art of great arranging, when you hear the complete picture in your head. That is the definition to me of great arranging. But where it comes to writing a song or any other kind of music, I'll take any tool I can possibly get my hands on. It's not cheating. It's changing the vocabulary and seeing how it inspires you. When I was in college, I rented a piano. When I moved into a house, I rented a piano. And pretty soon, through my banging of the piano, 2 notes went out on the piano. And the person from whom I was renting it would not come over and fix it. Well, you know, I wrote a lot of interesting songs that way because I couldn't use those 2 notes. They're right in the center of the keyboard, and I couldn't use them. That was that same thing. Changing the vocabulary, changing the tool, changing the sound. If you imagine that before people wrote songs on a piano, they only had guitars and lutes and things like that. Imagine what some of those writers felt like when they got their hands on a piano. Fantastic. Why shouldn't I get that opportunity with other technology?